This is the new Solar P1 Universal Pod, and it's a bit like the Rolls-Royce Ghost of the car world in that it's modern yet timeless, it's British built, it's classy, it's got decades of technology and knowledge gone into this, but most importantly, as a brand, it's well respected. I touched upon the heritage there, and Solar have been around for over 30 years, 33 to be precise, and about as British as teenage pregnancies, rainy summer holidays, and ordering an omelette from a curry house. So if you like to buy British, then stick to Solar. Now, unlike many other companies, Solar don't feel the need to keep pumping out new products year in, year out to stay current, whereas in fact, they rely more heavily on the longevity and the quality of their products. And the fact, as I keep saying, they've been around for over 30 years, proves that they're going about things the right way. And when the copycats come out and start making their own versions of things, well, it kind of speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that there isn't room for any changes at any time, because of course things do develop over time, which is why we now have the Universal. Now, the word Universal itself stands for applicable to all. So for a pod to be applicable to all, it needs to cover a whole plethora of different banks and venues, whether it be muddy or gravelly or wood chip like this, manicured, concrete, platform, rocky, uneven, or then moving on to the lakes, whether it's a small venue, a massive venue, windswept, weedy, canal, river. It really does have to cover a lot of bases, which is why we now have this Universal. Now, to achieve this, pretty much everything on this pod is adjustable. Starting off with the legs. We have a thumb screw here for full adjustability of the length of the legs. Not just that, we can undo this one underneath here and change the angle of the legs on a ratchet system. Then we come to the back of the pod. We've got two little twisty knobs here. We can extend the back of the pod like so and clamps it back down. This is replicated again at the front of the pod. Not only that, we can adjust where these legs are positioned, undo thumb screws once again, and I can slide these legs forward as far as I want and back as far as I want. Same with the front. All of these things are adjustable on both ends. So there's literally endless configurations of how you want this pod for different situations. That's one thing I really love about this pod. And here are 5 other things I love about this pod. Firstly, the stability. The way this thing is designed, with the fact that the legs are splayed, a bit like a rugby player going into a scrum. They wouldn't go in stood upright without spreading their weight. They get down low, spread the legs, so they've got the best purchase on the ground and the best way of pushing forward. Much the same in how this is laid out. It's got the nice low centre of gravity and stability holding itself there, so it won't rock sideways, won't go forward, won't go backwards. It's not going anywhere. And even if you were worried about that, which I can't see why you would be, there's additional tie down points on the front and back to secure it down to the ground even more. Secondly is how flat it folds down when in transit. So I've taken off the legs and the crossbars to start with. We just undo the thumb screws underneath the uprights. As you see, they collapse down like so. Get the carry bag, pop it in, fully padded bag, good to go. Thirdly, but oddly satisfying, is how small you need to adjust the thumb screws to loosen it and tighten it. So you can make adjustments without having to undo that thumb screw loads and tighten it back up. Just a little thing. Fourthly, sticking with small but satisfying, the ratchet system. That is just so satisfying. Lovely. And lastly, every point of adjustment is finished with notches and texture, making them lovely and easy to adjust. Regardless of what time of year, how wet and cold it is, you can adjust all these things nice and easily. And when it comes to the looks, of course that's down to personal opinion. Just like with a Rolls-Royce, it's probably not everyone's cup of tea, but one thing you can't deny is that they are works of art. They're at the pinnacle of their production, they're luxury items, and I've been filming this all morning, been using it for the last 24 hours, and I'm yet to find an angle that I personally don't enjoy looking at. Now that may sound quite sad to some, but when you come across as many tackle items as I do in my line of work and all the different pods, you get to know what looks really nice and what doesn't. And this, in my opinion, is probably one of the nicest pods I've ever got my hands on. And until you've actually felt one of these in your hands and all the meticulous detail that goes into it, the fine-tuned items, everything is just so precise, I really cannot fault this as a pod. Really am struggling. If I had to find any fault, even if you can call it a fault or just a natural characteristics of the materials, it's the fact that it weighs quite a lot. This comes in at 4.4 kilos for the UK version, and the Euro version, which is slightly jacked up, beefed up in areas and goes slightly larger, comes in at 6.3 kilos. But once your rods are out like this, the weight of it is irrelevant. That's pretty much all I can think of. So in summary, is this a bit of a luxury blingy item? Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. If I had the money to get one myself, would I? Definitely, why not? And who's to say I shouldn't? Yes, there's alternatives on the market. Yes, there's things that will be cheaper and do probably a similar job. But I've got to say, this is a prime example of you get what you pay for.